Oh, man, am I excited for today's guest, Mark Jones, the voice of the NBA for ESPN. He was calling NBA Finals games last year. He's also the voice of the Sacramento Kings, which is why I thought today would be the most appropriate day and time to bring him on, given the Warriors just beat the Kings. They're going to play the Kings again Sunday in Sacramento, but I also would just love his thoughts and insights on the Warriors and the NBA as a whole. He's a genuinely great human being. Mark Jones joins me next. This is Locked On Warriors.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Warriors your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get podcasts. I am so elated to have the voice of the NBA. He was calling NBA Finals games for the Golden State Warriors. You can hear him on ESPN broadcast, NBA games, college football games. I saw someone tweet that you are one of the hardest working individuals in the media. I can't disagree with that. Mark, how are you doing, sir? How's your day going?
Man, you do a great job every time. Love listening to you. And busy, headed to the airport in a few minutes again, Nebraska, Michigan. But I love being busy at this time of the year, especially when it comes to NBA. I loved in this fantastic league of basketball players and great people in and around the game. And to take shape a little bit, we're about 10 games in and starting to see some interesting things happening.
Absolutely. Well, let me ask you this. I guess before we get into the Warriors real quick, what was the experience like in the NBA Finals where 1 minute you think your season's over, and then Mike Breen comes down, I believe, with COVID? I mean, you were in Florida, so you weren't far away. You were a lot closer, I think, than some people. Or maybe you were actually near Boston. I don't know. Give us the whole laydown. How did that experience go where 1 minute you're just taken back, and then all of a sudden you're calling the NBA Finals?
It was wild because, after I do the television part of the conference finals, conference semifinals, I work and do the conference finals, either East or West, depending on which year it is, on the radio and Miami series on ESPN radio with Doris Burke had done guns and gave it one of those big, my off season has begun. Finished, get ready for a day on South Beach with my wife and hanging out, and that I got the call. I was driving my dog to the vet. We have an 85-pound Doberman, Rasta. He's 8.5 years old. He's fantastic. I was taking him to the vet, and Tim Corrigan, our coordinating producer at ESPN, calls me. And what are you doing? I said, I'm doing great. What are you up to? He goes, I think we have a situation out here in San Francisco. How soon can you get on a plane? I'm like, well, it sounds like you're telling me, so I'll jump on the first flight available. So took Ross to the vet, came home. My wife, Sarah, boom, I jump on a 6-hour flight out to San Francisco from Miami International. And right up, Cyrus, I think it was like 11 o'clock late morning, positive again, and was still in protocol. So, it was a good thing that I had been both the game. I mean, like I watch every game and watch the reruns. I had just finished calling the Boston series against Miami, all covered, and Golden State had done them late in the season and watch all their playoff games. And it was an easy transition, but it was fun anyway to just get in the chair and call an NBA Finals game. I always dreamed about being able to do an NBA Finals, but you never take joy in somebody. It's just the way it worked out, and I was happy for the experience. It was great.
And you definitely lived up to the expectation and more. You were fantastic, Mark. Let me ask you this. I mean, you covered the NBA Finals, and then you're also the voice of the Sacramento Kings. So just the other day, the Warriors squeaked out a win over your club in a game where I know the fan base for the Kings is upset because that 2-minute report showed Clay fouled Herter. And they play again, I believe, on Sunday. But in your opinion, this is a Warriors show, so we'll stick to the team if that's okay. The Golden State Warriors, not the club you're covering. What is, look, the obvious difference is the bench, right? But in your eyes, what has changed between this world championship team that was taking care of business fairly easily to now a team that's 4-7 that has a starting five that is exemplary, but the moment you go to that bench, it's awful. What are you seeing, and what do you think the Warriors should do to change things up, if anything?
Yeah, I really honestly think that has had a lot of practice at being able to come back. They've done it 4 previous times with this iteration, with their workouts and being able to, psychological run at it. I just think they're missing a little bit of gas. That's one component of it. I spoke with a Western Conference scout the other day calling the Kings game. The Warriors had just finished losing to Charlotte.
Yes.
And I asked him, Mark, he said, I was watching them play, and I really thought that they came into the game thinking in the fourth quarter and turn on the Jets and hit the switch and win it. Charlotte started a story. They ended up losing to the Hornets. So I think there's a little bit of that. We'll just juice the game in the on the switch going on with the Warriors. The second thing is, they missed some key pieces when you look at, GP2 defensively, Otto Porter, defend young guys. The new pieces are still learning defensive rotation. They've got somebody new running their defense. Mike Brown had been a fixture there for all that time and did it extremely well. They were number 2 in defensive rating at the end of the regular season last year. And then, the big part I think about why they're struggling defensively in doing the Kings to go down to San Francisco. I said, Steve, so defense, what is it? I you guys were 30th in defense. And he said, we're just out there hacking, guys. We're just fouling. The key to their success in the past, or part of it, has always been fouling. And they're just not doing that right now. And, there's going to be some young guys thrown into the rotation now. Wiseman is still on a very steep learning curve. I mean, he should be a senior. Not to panic. I'm not like some elements of Warrior Twitter that want to trade the guy. If it's in that athletic and that young, there's no good reason to want to move him right. I think those are 3 main things right now that the Warriors, why they're sideways a little bit.
They are sideways, and that last place defense it's glaring, because for this entire dynasty, that the underrated facet of this team's success has been that defense, and it's not there right now. What are your thoughts on the youngsters? My gripe is we're not seeing them play enough, and I understand Kerr's mentality is it's obvious, right? He doesn't have to say this. Right. Is that he feels if he plays the youngsters, they're going to lose. The problem is they're losing anyways. So that's why I don't. The DNPs are a little frustrating to me. Do you have hope for the youngsters? I mean, you've been covering this game for a long time. Your basketball opinion is value to me. Do you have hope for these youngsters? Yeah. Are you starting to see maybe chinks in the armor that maybe they won't be great? Your thoughts, please.
Yeah, I love I love Wiseman. Good look at him in summer league. I watched him a little bit for the short time he was at Memphis. Spoken to the type of kid he is. Spoken to a bunch of NBA scouts that thought about him before the Warriors scooped him up in the draft. I think he's going to be a 4 and 12 big man in this league at some point. I think the learning curve is a little steeper for big. I think with Wiseman, with Kuminga, Moody right now, the most polished of spend a little time actually in college, go figure. And he's a little bit older than those other two. When the dust settles after the first 20, 25 games, he's going to find a way to know where you don't have DNP CDs at one end of the spectrum and 5 minutes a game at the other end of the spectrum. But, the part of that's mentioned and alluded to, win some games along the way so that you don't end up in the play-in as opposed to maybe being one of those top 3 or 4 seeds in the Western Conference. That's ultimately where they're going to land. I think he's waiting for the right time for that to happen.
Yeah. I know you got to run. You're calling a college football game with your partner, Robert Griffin III. Great job, you two. I mean, I know the NBA's probably, I'm guessing, is your favorite, but the college football thing, people are loving it. The feedback's been nothing but positive, with the chemistry of you two being a huge reason for that, I think. But how are your Kings doing, man? You took Mike Brown from us. You took Leandro Barbosa from us. And clearly the impact is showing, man. How are your Kings? Let's end on that note. How are you liking your Kings this year?
And we took Luke Lux from you guys, who was part of the briefly left for Phoenix. But yeah, he's got his roots with Mike and Steve. Mike's doing a great job. The culture is transforming and changing, and he's doing it the only way he knows how, through attention to detail. Mm-hmm. I first saw that preseason game when the Kings were playing the Lakers, and Russell Westbrook comes out, scores 2 on the clock, had even elapsed. Mike called it a timeout, one of those Greg Popovich timeouts, like seconds in. Kind of looked at De'Aaron and jammed them up real hard. Said, "Hey man, like, you're our guy." Ever since then, De'Aaron's been fantastic, and he was fantastic going into that game moment. But that's an example. That's a snapshot of how Mike is changing things. He's, recently on the road when we were in Charlotte and in San Francisco at shoot around, and begins with defense, because if you're going to win games in this league, that's where it all begins. And very good. He's offensively got a system where it's a lot of conceptual. It's flow. It's early offense. It's a lot of ball and player movement. Teams in the NBA in terms of passes made per game and assist percentage. So, the game's gotten to De'Aaron Fox because he's not got the ball in his hands all the time. And although his numbers are great forward, and Kevin Huerter has been a great find coming from Atlanta. Domas Sabonis is racking. I'm still believing that this Kings team is going to be ultimately either at the very being in the play-in scenario, and at best maybe a 7th or 8th seed.
It would be nice to see that drought end, Mark. I do hope the Kings get in there. Absolutely. Mark, it has been a damn long time. I can't thank you enough. And your daughter, Sophia, is amazing as a contributor for this program. Every time she comes on, she's a little more polished. I don't know if you're noticing that as well, but yeah, she's got a future in this business for sure. And I hope her knee recovers soon. And I hope your family as a whole is doing great. Thanks as always, Mark. It's always a pleasure, man. I know you're a busy person. So thank you enough. Thanks. All right, let's show some love to LinkedIn. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. You want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps find the right people for your team faster and for free. And if you're not on LinkedIn looking for a job, by the way, you're missing out. All right, folks, if you're looking for work, you have to have that LinkedIn account. As a professor myself, I tell my students all the time, get that LinkedIn account going. That is where the networking starts. And if you're an employer, LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnba. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnba to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Warriors your first listen today. For your second listen, check out Locked On Sports today. From the games that matter the most to the biggest stories in sports, go behind the scoreboard and behind the scenes with local experts and insights only Locked On can provide. Locked On Sports today, available on this app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. I cannot thank Mark Jones enough. I do sincerely apologize if there were technical difficulties there. I have not, as I'm saying this right now, I have not gone back to edit this show yet. But I did hear some crackles, and look, we're on this platform that we need to leave, but we have not left this platform yet. That causes a lot of issues. And until we do so, unfortunately, sometimes we might have glitches like we had with Mark, but I hope you're able to at least understand enough of what he said. Look, we've covered the Warriors extensively all week. They played the Cleveland Cavaliers Friday night at home. One question I had, and this was both with Kylan Mills and this was with Kevin Dana, is are the Warriors going to be home underdogs when they host the Cleveland Cavaliers? It would be one of the first times ever in this entire dynasty's run. It might be the first time ever where they're fully healthy, that they would be a home underdog, right? And let's not count 2020, 2021, obviously. But given the way the Warriors have been playing, it was a potential concern that the Warriors would be coming into this game, again, underdogs at home to the Cleveland Cavaliers. Well, the great news is the spread is out and the Warriors are favored by 1. So if you feel like the Warriors don't have a chance in hell, that could be easy money for you. But the odds makers feel positive that the Warriors will at least come out with a win. I also want to share one last stat with you before we call it a day. And for the YouTube viewers, I'll share my screen so you can see this visually. But this is in terms of plus minuses for an entire starting group, or not a starting group, I'm sorry, for a 5-man lineup. In other words, what is the most effective 5-man group playing basketball in the NBA right now? 5th is the five sum of Clint Capella, John Collins, Hunter, DeJounte Murray, and Trae Young. They're plus 36 from the Atlanta Hawks. Number 4 with plus 42 is Caldwell Pope, Aaron Gordon, Nikola Jokic, Jamal Murray, and Michael Porter Jr. of the Denver Nuggets. 3rd at plus 43 are the Suns with DeAndre Ayton, Devin Booker, Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson, and Chris Paul. The second most efficient 5-man lineup in the NBA is courtesy of the Milwaukee Bucks with Allen, Antetokounmpo, Carter, Drew Holiday, and Brook Lopez. You know who number 1 is? If you're watching this, you can see it. But if you're listening to the podcast, it is the Golden State Warriors starting 5 of Stephen Curry, Draymond Green, Kevon Looney, Klay Thompson, and Andrew Wiggins. That 5-man lineup, when they play, have a plus 72 on the court. That is reflective of both offense and defense. It simply confirms what is obvious to a lot of people, that the Warriors have a fantastic starting 5. In fact, the best in the NBA. The best. It's not even close. Plus 72 for the Warriors starting 5. The next closest are the Bucks with Grayson Allen and Antetokounmpo and Drew, and they're plus 54. They're 18 below. The Warriors have the best starting 5 in the NBA. Their bench is a whole other story. Now, Dante DiVincenzo is going to play Friday night. They're 2-1 with him. He's missed the last 6 games because of that hamstring injury. We'll see what his impact is. But this bench is a huge concern. And you've clearly heard my thoughts over the last week. You've heard the thoughts of the guests that have been on the show. And let's just hope these youngsters develop. And let's just hope that Kerr somehow finds a magic elixir, because right now this team is needing it. I don't know if Kylan and I are going to do a show Friday morning, or if we might wait until Friday night or Saturday, just because I don't know if we need any more Warriors Cavaliers previews. I feel like we've touched on just about everything for this week before they play again. So you'll either see us Friday after the game, or you'll see us Saturday morning. We might go live. Who knows? We'll see how that goes. But that'll likely be the next show. But I can't thank Mark Jones enough again. Follow him on Twitter at Mark Jones ESPN. Follow me on Twitter at Dog Surf Roadshow, and this program on Twitter at Locked On Dubs. Thank you, everyone. And again, I hope that again, I have not seen this recording as I'm talking right now, but I hope the Mark Jones segment was clean enough to at least make this an enjoyable show. I love Mark, and his daughter Sophia is fantastic when she comes on the program. I love that she brings in that younger perspective and also expertise. I mean, she's a point guard for the San Jose State Spartans, so that's one hell of a family, and I'm incredibly happy for Mark. He's just a great dude. He's one of those just absolute, genuine, just good people in this world, and I'm happy for his success, and hope he comes back on again soon. Thank you.